go ahead and call the meeting to order at 6:04. Okay, we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. So go ahead and stand, face the flag. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Short moment for silent prayer. Thank you. Now we'll go to roll call.
Commissioner Diaz. Commissioner Fisher.
Aye.
Commissioner Gutierrez.
Here.
Commissioner Mason.
Here.
Commissioner Munoz. Here. Commissioner Velez. Commissioner Williams. Vice Chair Molnar.
Here.
Chair Torres.
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to oral communications. We have one speaker card, and it is Ms. Jerry Patras.
Hello, I'm Jerry Patras. I'm a West Covina resident. I live near Palmview Park. I'd like to comment on your item number 5, the restoration of the airplane at Palmview Park. It's a wonderful concept. And the plaque is just a tremendous idea. A few years back when we had a controversy with Palmview Park, people were coming out of all over the place, cities and everything, and they always would talk about the airplane. And people older than I am, that grew up in West Covina, talk about the airplane. And to give it a plaque would elevate it up to where it really should be. I would urge you to support it and maybe consider if there's other little treasures somewhere in the city to expand the concept. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Now let's move on to our consent calendar. First item, number 1, is the approval of meeting minutes for our September 13th, 2022 meeting. Any questions, comments on the minutes?
Make a motion that we accept them?
All right, motion to accept. Do I have a second? Second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Diaz. Commissioner Fisher.
Yes.
Commissioner Gutierrez.
Aye.
Commissioner Mason.
Here.
Commissioner Munoz.
Yes.
Commissioner Velez. Commissioner Williams. Vice Chair Molnar.
Yes.
Chair Torres.
Yes. Motion passes. Now let's move on to new business. Agenda item number 2 was Commissioner Munoz's request to discuss homelessness in the parks and options for park usage. Assistant City Manager, who will be giving the report. Do we have one?
We do have a report. To piggyback on your request, Commissioner Munoz, we've also invited our whole team to give a little bit more insight. I know that you did have some questions previously, so I thought this would be a good opportunity because they have their eyes and their ears and are physically present in our park. So I'm going to ask if they come up and introduce themselves, and they will begin.
Hi, so I'm Officer Mello. My partner is Officer Ling. He's on vacation this week, and this is my supervisor, Lieutenant Freeman. So we're assigned to our HOPE team. We deal with the homeless in the city, and we partnered with LACADA, which is LA Centers for Alcohol and Drug Abuse, in April of last year. What we do is we go out, we get complaints from citizens via GoGov app. We have a homeless email that the community can email complaints to us, or they call the watch commander and it gets filtered down to us. So on a daily basis, we're out there hitting all the different hot spots of where we know the homeless are at, whether it be the parks, different areas of the community, and we're engaging with those homeless with LACADA, and they outreach them, and ultimately LACADA specializes in treatment facilities, so like rehab facilities. However, over time, they have built relationships with the shelters around and different programs that are out there. There's collaborative housing that actually helps the homeless get jobs and get into a housing that's affordable while they work and get on their feet. So we like to outreach first, and then if that's not working, we'll move to the enforcement side. Enforcement, it can work. However, with our current DA, a lot of these things are site releases, so we take them to jail, they get out, they're back on the streets within a couple hours, or it's just not even being filed. So the more long-term solution and what we feel is best is getting them to a permanent, whether it be a shelter, a rehab facility, a more permanent solution to get them off our streets. And this stuff takes time. Sometimes it takes, months. Cameron Park, I'm sure you guys are all aware, there was a huge issue there with the gazebos and that vacant house that was just north of that park. They were there for, probably 6 months, tents, under the gazebos, stuff spread out everywhere. We'd be out there every day, outreaching them, building rapport until they finally trusted us. And this was like 6 months later. They finally trusted us, finally hopped in the van. We got them into transitional housing, and they are now in San Diego in a house working for Amazon. And they're not in the park, and the park's been good. Similar thing at Cortez Park, probably this time last year, big issue there. We got them housed, and a lot of the issue there was they were actually moving the benches throughout the park and kind of congregating them in one area, and they were using it to conceal all their stuff. They were using the benches as beds. So we got with City Yard, got the benches back to where they belonged, bolted them down, got the people that were there housed, and that park's been cleared. So it's a big game. It's a lot of it's moving them. When we get them out of one park, they move to the next park. So then we're hitting that park, and they move to the next park, and we're constantly chasing them around the city. Just our stats, I'll kind of go over our stats a little bit. In 2018, our homeless count was 263 homeless. In 2019, we went down to 147. 2020, 123. 2021, they didn't do a count because of COVID. And then 2022, they just did our count, and it was actually at 46.
How many? Was how much?
46. So on the website, it is a little confusing. If you go on LAHSA's website, who does the count, it's 112. However, they break it down between unsheltered and sheltered. Sheltered, we have 66. Unsheltered, we have 47. So our count of homeless currently on the street is at 47, which is significantly low.
Would you mind, I see some puzzled looks,
Yeah.
and I think we all kind of have them. Would you mind taking a moment just describing for us the distinction between sheltered and unsheltered? It might not be as obvious as.
So sheltered would be either they're in a shelter, they're in a sober living, they're in a transitional housing, they're not on the streets. So they're in some kind of a program, would be a sheltered person.
They have
So
a
they're-
roof over their head somewhere.
Yes,
But not necessarily permanent.
not necessarily permanent.
Okay, so
And
after
is
you've
it-
done outreach, the next is enforcement.
Yes.
But your hands are tied, so basically there's no enforcement, there's just shuffle.
So
Find them a place and get rid of them for a month or a week or something, and then they go someplace else.
So don't get me wrong, we do enforcement, and I'll give you our stats. So
Oh, okay.
last year we had 1,800 contacts throughout the year. 157 encampments were removed throughout the city. 705 people accepted services. Now services can be anything from shelter, treatment, taking them to get food and clothing. Again, building that rapport, right? If, hey, I'm not ready for shelter, but hey, we can go take you to go get some food and clothes, just to build that rapport. We can get them ID vouchers for the DMV. A lot of these services, they need IDs, so we have vouchers where they can get a free ID from the DMV, or assisting them with their benefits, things of that nature. So 705 people accepted services last year. We made 165 arrests. We issued out 65 citations, and Lakota housed 85 people last year.
Now, when you arrest them, that's jail, correct?
That is jail.
For a minute.
Overnight, or Can they stay?
Depends on the charge. Depends on the charge. I can't tell you a lot of the homeless charges are drug-related charges,
They can stay.
which are misdemeanor charges, which are sign-outs.
Right, okay.
So what about Governor Newsom? He started that new program where you can hold them if they're medically deemed drug addicts or they need psychological evaluation, you can hold them. Do you know anything about, I don't know
You talking about
much.
more like a 5150, like a mental health evaluation?
So that's still going to require a judge oversight. It's not in place as of yet.
It's in the works.
It has to do with conservatorship, a lot of which it won't have much to deal with law enforcement. So I'm sure most of you guys are aware that the homeless, by and large, was a law enforcement problem years ago. And the way we handled that back then is the way we handled 90% of all of our problems, and that's through heavy enforcement, zero tolerance. And what happened is it essentially was a short-term solution to the problem, and it wasn't helping, and it kind of got us to the point where we're at now. Whether people agree with it or not is not for us to get into the debate, but it requires a multifaceted approach with other agencies, not just law enforcement. We're one small piece of the cog that needs other outside social services and whatnot to handle it. The way that our HOPE team attacks the problem is to find long-term solutions. And the best long-term solution is to help somebody, and that's to get them off of the streets and into rehab, into some type of mental health treatment, because the studies, by and large, overwhelmingly demonstrate that homeless individuals typically have mental health issues and substance abuse, and there's quite a few that have both going on at the same time. And what happens is you find one agency that helps in one area and another that helps in the mental health and substance abuse. It's rare that you find one agency that handles both, and that's what we're trying to incorporate. That's what other law enforcement agencies. We have LACADA that deals with substance abuse. They're slowly bringing on a mental health aspect. In the meantime, we have our San Gabriel Valley Med team, which involves mental health. However, we only get our mental health clinician 1 day a week, and we have to share her, and she's kick butt, she's good, but we share her essentially with Azusa, Covina, Glendora, and ourselves. So each agency gets her 1 day a week. So there's things that we do to make it successful. We prep our day when we know she's coming, and then they'll take her out and specifically hit our high frequency individuals, meaning high frequency means that they draw a lot of police resources. Because although it's not necessarily our problem alone, all the citizens, they know one person to call, and that's the police. And we're expected to come out and help, right? And we obviously want to do that. That's why we form these collaborative relationships to help. And they're really focused on the parks right now. And it is getting better. It's just not immediate. It's very slow. It's a daunting process. And to go out and enforce when they need to enforce, we do that. So we don't want anyone in the room to think that we just throw our hands up. We don't get into politics. We're just stating a fact that there's certain criminal charges that the DA's, the entire district attorney's office, they don't file anymore. And that's just, that can't be argued. It is what it is. But it doesn't prevent us from still making those arrests. There's still laws that they violate. We still make those arrests.
Well, do you think that the governor's initiative is going to be effective, or do you not know enough about it yet?
You know what? Government plans are hit and miss. So we're very optimistic, and we hope that it's going to help. The problem is it depends on how many conservator judge they throw at this, because, I mean, think about all of LA County is going to be going to what, one court, maybe, 2, 3? Think about the entire, because it's not just West Covina, it's all of LA County.
Well, I
So,
think it's for the state of California that he signed this legislation.
but we're gonna be focused in a county.
Right.
That's typically how it works, unless they do it differently. But these are all the little nuances that have to be worked out. But, so realistically, if they staff it properly, and now people can get their high-frequency people into those, absolutely. Now, people that might not necessarily need to be out on the street are going, it's gonna add another way to provide assistance and get them off the street and into the help that they need.
And it's longer than a 5150 hold. They can hold
We're
them
talking
indefinitely.
conservatorship, so
Yeah.
someone is put over them to make decisions for them on day-to-day
On different levels.
livelihood stuff, so.
And there is a team within Department of Mental Health, it's called the Home Team, that actually deals with our high frequent homeless who have mental health and cause a lot of issues in our city. We actually have 5 of our homeless that are currently working with them, and their goal is conservatorship, and that's what they work towards. What holds it up though is if they do at any point during their outreach with them, if they do accept help, they kind of halts that conservatorship. So we do have a couple. One right now, or actually 2 are refusals, so they're moving forward with the conservatorship. 3 of them accepted to take medication or on a monthly injection, which has slowed down calls, but they are still out there. So it's a process. It's a long process. Long process.
It has to be frustrating for you guys. It has to be.
I'll say this, what we're going through right now is very positive, but we are very much, we want satisfaction very quickly. We're not patient. This has definitely taught us, law enforcement and anybody who's been associated, I say that as a supervisor, which my boots aren't on the ground. Him and Sam, like, it's a big deal what they're doing. And, we want our citizens to understand that we're one of the few cities that are having major success. And there are others out there, but it's all about the collaborative partnerships and a multifaceted approach to handling the problem.
Is there a plan to stop the bleeding into West Covina from our neighboring cities?
Well, so there's ways to kind of keep eyes on that, but ultimately, we can't prevent people from moving about. We have to abide by the 4th Amendment, right? Because it's one thing to call us, but when you really think about it, if I violate someone's rights, it's the city's gonna pay and I'm gonna pay personally, meaning I could get arrested, I could get sued personally. So there's very strict and harsh punishments for what we can and can't do. And I love the citizens, but I love my family more. And I love the paycheck on the table and food on the table, so I'm not going to put that at risk. But it's been very, very promising, and it's really through their hard work, it's through the city making the partnership with Licata that has really excelled and put us in a different realm. Because before, without Licata and just we had one homeless officer out there, maybe we had 3, 4 in a year. Now, you're talking about 2 individuals that are going out and making over 1,300 contacts in a year. We have officers that don't make 1,300 contacts in 2 years, 3 years. Like they're putting in work and they're getting things done. It's just people have to be patient with this process, and it's very difficult to be patient. I get it, we're the same.
I have I don't know if you were done with your report?
Yeah.
Commissioner Munoz, I've lived in the city close to 40 years now. And so, you know, it has its ups and downs like any community. I will admit, after my experience is community development, I work with LASA, building collaboratives and things of that nature. So what I see in our city, which the ability to be able to call a HOPE team through the police department, oftentimes, and I call very frequently, oftentimes I feel when I call the police department, I'm taking even the dispatch desk time away from an urgent call. A lot of times, the individuals that I see, they're not threatening anyone. They're not committing any crimes that I can see. They're just trespassing. And they look a certain way. And oftentimes in our communities, whether it's in the old downtown district or out near park, or especially out by parks that are heavily wooded and they're beautiful and are hiking areas, you know, they look a little suspect, they look sketchy.
Yeah.
So when I call, I wish there was an easier way to get directly to a HOPE team person without having to call dispatch and then tell them the same situation without having to take up the dispatcher's time.
So we do have an email. It's
okay.
yeah, hope at wcpd.org, and that goes directly to myself and my partner, and then each crew actually has a homeless liaison officer that's assigned to that crew, that it goes to them as well, because we're only here Monday through Thursday, sometimes on Friday daytime hours. However, every crew has one of those homeless liaison officers that can respond out to that area and handle the situation.
Okay.
And I do my best to try and get back to you, you know, if I have
No,
any
you do.
questions
Just for the number of calls that I've made,
Okay.
it's been excellent. I have no complaints.
And if it's
or
somebody
concerns.
that needs like just outreach, like you see somebody that you just think needs help, you can always, Locata has an email too as well, and it's LACADA@wcpd.org. And that would be more for like the outreach stuff, shelters, rehabs, things of that nature.
Yeah, just a couple of more questions on the profile of who our homeless population is. And I call them ours because they are transient, but when they're here, they're ours.
Yeah.
And so we don't, you know, we can't ask them to leave. So, you know, we do our best. But with regards to some of our parks, let's say, I'm going to focus maybe on Friendship Park, because that is the southernmost part of the city. And it's got an interesting density. So it's got apartments, the park, businesses, and then the main drag valley and all that. When we're approaching a plan for how you're going to identify a particular part of the city that might have a little bit more activity, do you guys carve out maybe true criminals and put them in one category, and then we have homeless or unhoused that just kind of frequent the park because that's the only place they can go, and then other individuals who might just be looking for an opportunity to commit a crime in that particular pocket? Is when you get a call saying, you know, John Q. Citizen calls and says, there's a homeless person here and I'm afraid. When you guys go out, you do that assessment, right?
I don't. I honestly, I mean, if it's just there's a homeless person in the park, I'm just going to treat them like a normal person.
Okay.
Unless they're actually doing something that tells me something different, they're just another person to me. And that's how we build that rapport, right? Treat them with respect. Like I said, we use food and clothing a lot just to try and get that rapport, especially if we don't know them. If I've never met them before, they don't know me. So for me to try and convince them to hop in a van with some stranger and go off to a shelter, like, you're crazy, I don't know you. But if I say, hey, you want to go get some food and clothing, and I take them I get them food and clothing and bring them right back the next day. And we just keep building and building and building until they will go to the shelter, they do trust us and stuff like that. But no, I don't, unless it's a call of like a person running to the park with a gun, that would be different, but if it's just a home, it's just a, I don't know.
The only distinction is in what crime that's being committed. So whatever's being alleged is how we're going to approach it. It doesn't matter who's committing the crime to us, just we know somebody is committing the crime. Like statistics, when you start getting into that, we can break up homeless individuals that are involved in crime. There's all sorts of coding that you can do in an integrated system, like our Mark 43 system. You can start separating like that, but you can't necessarily like distinguish like who's going to commit a crime of opportunity. Like a lot of times we don't know if it was well thought out or if it was a crime opportunity. We just know, hey, this person did it. You know, as far as like our officers separating anybody, that I mean.
It's kind of profiling, isn't it?
Well, I mean, you can have 3-hour conversation on that, yes, but you got to. That's you know, we believe in procedural justice and treating everybody fair. If you look, and knock on wood, you don't see West Covina PD in the media making a whole lot of bad decisions and treating the people unfairly. Our complaints are low. You know, our biggest complaint from citizens are traffic and homelessness. That's a good thing. That means our officers are out doing what they're supposed to be doing and not harassing people, not violating their rights, not doing all these things that other agencies get national attention for. National attention is bad. We don't want it. We want the minor attention from ABC News telling us, hey, look at West Covina, what they're doing. So,
Yeah, the tree fell down, right?
We're not gonna categorize people per se, because you never know what that person went through. Like there's homeless people out there. By and large, you can say somewhat it's a choice. There is a lot that want to live that way at that specific moment, but that can change any point in time. And then there's others that mentally and substance abuse wise, they can't be normal. They might want to be, they just are controlled by addiction or controlled by a mental health issue. So, you know, how do you categorize them differently, other than, you know, you treat the crime and not the person?
I just have a quick question. You get two different points of view. Go ahead and help them if you see somebody out there, or ignore them, okay? Now, 2 churches here in the city help the homeless by making bags of supplies that they need. And we make like 70 or 80 at a time, and then we distribute them. Is that okay, or should we not do it anymore? I mean, I do it, I think.
Hygiene products and food and stuff?
Yeah,
That's
socks and, you know, the stuffed water, and then medical, you know, Band-Aids and stuff. And when we're making, I'm thinking, I remember that one person said, don't do this, you know?
No, that's totally fine. What we don't want is passing out like tents.
Oh, no.
Oh.
We've had that in the past.
So these are just,
Yeah, no, hygiene, that's totally fine.
Oh, okay, so that's all right, yeah.
Out of these group of homeless or unsheltered, how many of these are families that have just really hit hard times?
So, not very many of them. However, during the holidays, November, December-ish, we had three families. Yeah, 3 families.
Were we able to help them?
We did. So we actually had a grant where we were able to put them into a motel until we found a permanent solution, and each of the families we were able to help them. So, not something we come across a whole lot. That was actually our first time, but it does happen. And those are the ones that we will spend. You know, that's all we do for those few days. So.
Just a couple of final questions, maybe. I appreciate, of course, that your flexibility and availability
Yeah,
when and I've called the office and I rarely identify anything except this is the problem and how can I help get this kind of under control or whatever. I'm not adverse to approaching the individuals that I see sometimes. When they look like they're in need and I feel comfortable. And oftentimes I have chatted with them, and then when I've called dispatch, I've just given them a little heads up, a little bit more information about what I think this person might be going through. That's just, I can only speak for me, but how can we help you guys do a better job? Not that your job is not good, but how can we help you?
I think just
Because it's a huge, it's this huge issue. It's not just yours, it's
Yeah.
our community.
No, absolutely. And I think just letting us know where the problems are at, you know, I mean, there's only two of us, it's a big city, obviously. We know of a lot of the problems in the city and the areas, but there are areas that we're unaware of, you know, especially in the areas where there's not a whole lot of activity and something pops up there. If we don't know about it, it'll just sit there and you guys may think, we're not doing anything about this. Well, if we don't know, we're not gonna do anything. If we, you know, because you can't be everywhere. So just keeping us in the loop, you know, letting us know where the issues are at, I think would be the biggest thing.
I think one of our primary goals is just to form better relationships with community members such as yourself and anybody else out there for that matter. We want to go past that you guys are just our eyes and ears out there and start forming relationships on tackling problems like this. So, you know, educating yourself, having these conversations with law enforcement and doing research online to kind of figure out why we do what we do. It helps educate everybody. It helps build our relationship with our community, but it also allows you to kind of go out and educate other people who get frustrated with us for not getting that quick hit solution. We oftentimes get, you guys don't do anything, and it's like, whoa, and that hurts, especially when you say, oh, like Joe or Sam isn't doing anything about the homeless population. Well, if we can bring their families in and talk about how many nights that they've missed dad, from dad working overtime, because yes, they work a 4-day work week, but that doesn't include all of the overtime that they put in. They come in twice a month and do directed patrols on weekends, giving up their Saturdays to come in, and they are not required to do that at all. I can't force them to do that. That is by choice, but through commitment to their community. So, you know, making sure that if you hear people attacking us, saying we're not doing anything, just kind of politely and not getting into the war of words or, you know, political ideology or anything, but just, hey, no, I've heard this firsthand from them, and our statistics are online. It's not any big secret. We put out our annual reports every month. We're very transparent with our community, so, you know, just educating other people and being encouraging and understanding that we are out there doing what we're supposed to be doing. We've been decimated in numbers, but that's no excuse. It is what it is now. We're at 100. We used to be at 126. We've adjusted, and we're getting back after it. So, you know, just educating yourself and being out there, and don't feel ashamed to hand out stuff to the homeless individuals. Some people genuinely need it. You're not going to attract more, like they say, or make them. They're here. They're ours, like you said, and we're going to have to find help for them and solutions for fixing the problem. So, you know, never be ashamed of that. I will say this: if you're dealing with homeless individuals, we are like doctors. We are going to give you the worst case scenario. So if you believe that they have some mental health issues or they're going through a mental health crisis, please be careful, because they, you know, everybody knows it's not just that they're homeless. People in mental health crisis can become violent. So just be careful in your approach with them and keep distance, and, you know, never feel guilty for calling us. We are a full service agency. We come, you call, we come. It might take us a couple hours, you know, because it's all based on priority. Any call that could possibly have violence or having violence is going to go to priority one, and those are gonna get all of our attention first, and then we kind of get to, it's like watching a B-rated movie on Netflix. You get to those when you're bored and it's quiet, right? You got nothing else to do. That's kind of how we, we're not bored at any point in time. Our officers are out constantly going on calls, but when things quiet down, we'll come get to those transient calls and deal with those. So you're not taking up time. We're public servants. We're here to serve. So.
One final comment about Licata. They are a great team. I actually made, a couple of months ago, I made a phone call and had already talked with these individuals. And then it just so happened they were in the area and dispatch said they're on their way, and I kind of waited there and spoke with them, and they're really an asset as a collaborative with law enforcement and community members. They're really an asset. I think it can be expanded, and it would be outstanding for the city. It could be a model program for our neighboring cities. So I just wanted to give kudos to the entire team, not just Licata, because from my own experience out there, you guys are very responsive. It's just this gigantic problem out there.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Thank you.
Just one more question.
Yeah.
Just noticed that the time count is coming out. Has LASA reached out to or said anything about that coming out?
They haven't. I reached out to LASA and they didn't know when it was going to be. I asked if we can assist, kind of like last year.
Yeah.
They keep it tight. I tried.
Yeah, and they wonder why 5 people show up.
Yeah.
You know, on that issue, I did get an email from, I volunteer every opportunity. And I tried to register and it kept sending me to other cities. So it doesn't look like our city is set up on a schedule for the count yet. This was last week.
Okay.
So sending me to East LA and Alani and other.
Sounds like the assistant city manager's fault.
Paulina?
I didn't point at you while you're back there, I swear.
That's a good one. That was good.
Don't mess with her.
That's why I did it when her back was turned. Wait, I just ruined that, didn't I? I did that wrong. Any other questions?
I have a comment. I volunteer at Momota Park, West Covina, Point Vista, and we did have a homeless problem, and the whole team was very responsive. Came out quickly. They, helped us take care of the problem throughout the summer, and now I don't even think they've been around.
Yeah, it's been easy.
So they do. I mean, I know it's just the 2 of them, but they helped.
And it takes time. It took a while to clear that one out.
Yeah.
But it takes time. We'll get it done. It just takes a little time.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I had a few. I'll try to be quick because I know we've been keeping you guys.
No question.
Thank you.
So, I'm impressed with Lieutenant Freeman. You're very informed and yeah, you articulated everything perfectly. So I appreciate it, Officer Mello as well. So the question that Commissioner Fisher had about other cities and their homelessness issues, what sort of collaborative, I guess, efforts are we involved in with the, I guess it would be San Gabriel Valley cities, right? Or working with other agencies. Is there any effort that we could kind of address it regionally as opposed to just the city?
Yeah, there was a regional, it's called HALO. That was last year, and that was with pretty much everybody. It's Pomona, Claremont, Glendora, Irwindale, Azusa, us, Covina. It was a regional thing, and it was 2 days a month where we would send 2 guys from each department. We'd all meet up in a certain city. It was different every time we went out, but let's say we go out to Pomona, and we all outreach with LASA for 8 hours a day. And then the next day we pick a different city and we kind of go around. That was through a grant, but from what I've heard, that grant is done. It's not going to happen this year. So as of right now, there's nothing in the works for regional stuff.
And so then, in general though, do we just kind of communicate with other cities with respect to like issues with the accounts or with certain individuals, and so that way we're kind of on the same page with, say for example, there's a problem like in that border region of another city, or is that not just general practice?
Typically, we'll just handle it.
Okay.
And if we're dealing with a person, we're going to handle it. I haven't had anything where it's been on like a border and it's like, I don't know if it's us or if it's sheriffs or us in Covina.
Yeah, the reason I was asking just because I know that I've spoken to homeless individuals in the past, and that's typically what I've heard. Kind of, they know what other agencies do, right? So they have understanding, oh, Azusa does this, or
Right.
if you go to Pomona, they do that. Oh, West Covina, they do this, right? So they're talking and they know. So I was just hoping if there was any way that could be kind of, a template where, but I know each of us have our own way of doing things, so.
Yeah.
The collaborative partnerships are good, but they're also bad in the sense, so if we put them in a collaboration and do, like a task force, then they'll spend time in other cities, so we lose out on those days.
Yeah.
So it's hard to do that because of how much time and energy they have to put into each individual, and it's consistency. It's continually going out talking to them. And from some of these contacts start out with less than 1 words and a whole lot of curse words being thrown at their direction, and that eventually ends up into conversations, and it's painstaking sometimes. So we don't want to lose our people for even a day to go into another city.
Me either.
That's what happens. And in some areas, it's great. For homelessness, dealing with it for several years now, it's not, that doesn't appear to be a good solution. That would be a good solution if we didn't have the funding to support 2 full-time officers. Now you start looking at doing some of that to get something. But we're in a unique situation where we have city support and we have the funding to dedicate 2 officers to that. So it's like, obviously, money situations can turn around on a dime, so we need to take advantage of it while we have it.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to do. We do talk, and like Joe and Sam will go to meetings. Pomona is like a hub. I don't know if you guys know this, but they got sued for several million for destroying property and stuff. But now they have a lot of money going in. Some of the local politicians got involved, got them money for beautification projects, which brings in like $3 million to them. So they have like a ridiculous stout program now. So we do, Sam and Joe go over there and they're in constant contact, and it's more roundtable, like, hey, what are you guys doing? What do you find effective? Well, okay, so there are those conversations going on, but we don't want to send them to Covina or.
Yeah, and at least we know what's going on in other cities.
Yeah.
Like, we know that not every other city has what we have. They might have different models, but, and then the funding, I recall the funding was for 1 year, right, for La Cara?
Yes.
Okay. So we're not sure what we're gonna do for the next year yet?
Correct.
Okay. So hopefully we could find money. Because it sounds like it's working,
It
so,
does.
yeah,
It is,
if we
yeah.
could fund it for another year. And then the last question I had was the accounts. We're advertising that, right? Because to me, that's a really good thing, right? We're lowering the count.
It was posted on social media accounts.
I don't know, I'd have to get back to you on that one. I'm not sure. I know we have our social media program, so
Yeah,
definitely
'cause
something that
that's
we
a good
could
drop.
blast out. It sounds like we don't even know the scheduled date or whatnot for West Covina. To be honest with you, I have not looked at the count at all for this year, so I'm not prepared to, yeah. I would
And
say
then
that even-
all the numbers that you gave,
Oh, the prior numbers, I'm sorry.
oh, well, no, the numbers that you gave throughout the years, are those all broken down the same way, unsheltered and sheltered?
So it was weird, because every other year, it was just purely unsheltered. So when the count came out this year, we thought we were at 112.
Oh,
And they
okay.
actually broke it down, so if you click on 112, you'll see
So the previous numbers are all
All
unsheltered?
unsheltered.
This is the first year they
they actually
did that?
did that,
Oh,
yeah.
okay, got it. Okay, yeah. I just had a few housekeeping things, so no more questions for the officers, but I did notice the website. I didn't find anything on our website, West Covina City, about La Cara or about the emails. I think Hope's email's on there, but I checked the police department's website, everything's updated there, it's on there. But on our website, we don't have any info about La Cara, or I think we have one page about Hope Team, but we don't have the
Yeah, it
email.
links to the West Covina PD.
Oh, okay.
So, but I'll follow up with that.
Yeah, maybe make it more prominent, because like Commissioner Munoz was asking, if people know these are the emails, they should, have them at least there on the website, so they can know contact Hope Team, contact La Cara. And then, oh yeah, and also on the police department's website, it's just a link. So then I was gonna see if that could be added as like the actual the email address could be shown. Cause you just click on it and then
Well, not, I thought it was added, I'll check.
I think it opens Outlook and then you see the email.
Okay.
But then for people who aren't tech savvy, they might not be
No
able
to
to
click,
figure
I
that
might
out.
not know to click.
Just like a transparency thing.
I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Carol Molnar, Vice Chair. I am curious, first of all, when you describe housed and unhoused, where are the housed and what causes them to still be homeless?
So it breaks it down on the map, and I'm just as confused as you, to be honest. It shows us a general area, and like I said, it could be sober livings. We don't have any shelters in the city, so it's not shelters.
That's what I
So
thought.
I'm assuming it's more sober livings, transitional housings. I couldn't tell you where all those sober livings are in the city. I don't know. But they are considered, I guess they'd be considered homeless because it's not a permanent house for them. It's a place for them to transition after they finish their treatment program.
So you still work with them when they are in these sober living, or you have to
We
wait
don't.
till they?
We do not.
So what happens when they leave there? They go back on the street?
If they were to leave the program, they would go back on the street, yeah. And that does happen.
Okay, and the other thing, in February normally is when the community gets out and counts the unhoused or homeless
Yes.
people. Is that still necessary if there's only 46 that are out there?
So LASA handles the counts, and they do it every year regardless. There's
Mhm.
cities with zero, and they still count.
Yeah.
And I think it is because it's tied to funding. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
So do it or lose it then.
Yeah.
Got it.
Just to go back to your last question, though, just so you know, once they go to treatment, we don't just say, oh, we're done.
Yeah.
A lot of times, once they enter treatment, the information can't come to us anymore. They obviously have their privacy rights, so if we're to inquire, they tell us they can't tell us. So we have to back off at that point. So I didn't want anybody to think that we didn't make an effort. There's just, obviously, once they enter a treatment program, the information we can obtain is extremely limited for
Yeah,
us.
of course it is.
Lakota, if they place them, they will track them and follow them. Because they have the right and access to them because they're within their own program. So, but even then, we don't get that information from Lakota. They can't necessarily give it to us. using
Only if
names
they
and
come back to
stuff.
our streets.
Well, if they come back, obviously, we'll end up
I'm
contacting.
guessing that the two of you pretty much know the people that are in our city now?
Oh, yeah.
With the contacts that you made?
Yeah, we have a full database.
Yeah, I would think you pretty much know the people.
It's not only them, it's our patrol
Yeah.
officers. Some
Good.
are heavily involved with them. Like you said, Joe and Sam created the officer liaison program, which means that every one of our patrol shifts, day or night, has one officer, homeless officer liaison, that they stay in constant communication with. So we're aware of the problems, because remember, they're not there on weekends, but they need to know what's going on. Who's out there, who's new. They came up with contact cards that get distributed into their mail slots at the station when someone comes across a new homeless individual. So now they can, and there's a series of questions they ask, hey, are you interested in services and whatnot? And so they do an excellent job on tracking. And then our new Mark 43 system allows us to track statistics better than we've ever done before.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a way that we could have, just like we were focused more on parks, at least our commission is, as opposed to like the rest of the city, is there a way that we could have like a calls for service report, maybe every 6 months, twice a year, where we could kind of see what parks are getting the more calls for service and what issues are going on in each park?
Yeah, so the statistics can be obtained anytime through Erica Taylor. She does all of our statistics. It just depends on what you want. Most of our reports are annual. We do the big department annual report. I think this will be the 3rd year. The 2022, they're just finishing up on, and it has a lot of those statistics in it. But if you want like every couple months, definitely something that we can get.
Okay, so we could just reach out to Erica?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not sure with the commission thing and whatnot on some of the stuff takes PRAs. So it is available to the public. You just have to make the request. Going through Erica Taylor for that would not be the proper route. You would actually have to go through our records to, and it can be in the form of an email and whatnot requesting, and then they will provide you with the statistics. So.
Awesome.
Great.
Okay, I think we're good.
Thank
you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Great.
Real quick, just out of courtesy to Commissioner, oh, you have a question.
Oh,
Well, Ollie's not
Mr.
allowed to
Chairman?
ask any questions.
sir,
Yes, go ahead.
I was wondering if the officers can retell the story that you gentlemen told me the other day about when there was a homeless individual who was out and someone yelled at you on the street and how you responded. Do you remember that story you gentlemen told me?
Sam's story. It happens a lot. A lot of these homeless individuals we have really good rapport with. They know us, so they see us and they talk to us. There's a gentleman that used to be at the Food for Less on Azusa, just south of Puente, and he washed the windows with, he'd be out there washing windows, Melvin. We all knew Melvin. And every time we go over there, we say hi to Melvin and we talk to him. And constantly people would come out filming us. Why are you harassing them? Stop harassing them. And Melvin would be like, no, they're helping me. They're helping me. They're not harassing me. I'm fine. Oh, they're harassing you. So we could be, Melvin, you can tell them, like, we're not, we're just trying to help you out. So it happens a lot. But it is what it is. It's a day and age that we live in. So Sam's exact story, I don't remember.
It was
something similar, right?
A father and a daughter that rolled up and they started yelling at Sam and Joe. Why are you harassing them? Leave this man alone. This is why nobody likes the police type thing. And Sam said, excuse me, sir, give me a second. And he brings Melvin over and he says, Melvin, can you please tell them what we're doing? And he's like, they're not harassing me, they're helping me. And they won't even leave me alone type thing. So, and the guy immediately drove off. Because now his argument's been shot and he doesn't want to apologize or whatnot for forming a wrong judgment on him. So But that's what they do on a daily basis. So if you see them out, stop and yell at them. If you have napkins, wet napkins, or whatever it is. If you see me, wave.
Oh my goodness. You're blaming Covina for things.
I never said her name.
You said it. You said it.
Love it, love
See,
it.
throw things at her now.
Anyhow, thank you for coming. Commissioner Munoz, this was your item. Is there anything in addition that you would like to ask you?
No, actually not. I appreciate it. It was very detailed, very clear. You told the exact story that I've seen. So you are the reality that is out there, so I really do appreciate it. And again, the collaboration between the Hope team, dispatch, and the way you guys operate is perfect. I'll keep calling.
And one more thought that I had, one more consideration, and really it is through the chair, if I may. Would it be beneficial then for this group, if you would like to have the opportunity, we could request for Lakota to come down and share a little bit about what they do, if that's something, I know that's under your purview, Pauline, if that's something that you can make happen for this body, I know they would appreciate it.
We'll double check with them, yeah?
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be great.
And then, sorry, I have one more question. So you shouldn't have told that story. But I just had a question based on what you were talking about. So then when I've noticed too, on just my own observation, sometimes we're very kind, patient, with that situation with homeless. So I was always curious because I know it takes up resources, right? And there's been times where I've seen officers helping a homeless person, and they might be dealing with mental issues, and so they're just kind of waiting there, talking to them, very patient, kind, just waiting. But one of the thoughts I was having was like that does take time, right? It takes up a lot of time. So is there any sort of discussions of possibly doing a different model where maybe officers aren't necessarily needed, and because the cost to have an officer, maybe 2 or 3 officers standing there for half an hour, maybe more, eats up those resources, and it does kind of drain funding in a way, right? So has that ever been discussed or thrown around where we could have a different model where maybe officers could be available but not be the kind of the front line workers for homelessness?
That's what's happening now with Lakota. You have the 2 Lakota clinician or techs that go out and they make contact on their own. So instead of having 2 people out making daily contacts, there's 4. So in essence, that is what's occurring. It's just obviously for safety reasons, you got to be careful. So obviously they're trained, but they also know that they can have us in 2 seconds if they need. So they come around our station, everybody knows who they are, and we also know that if they put out a help call, they're going to get help very, very quickly.
Okay, so then Lakota response, they're the first ones on the scene?
So they don't necessarily respond to calls. We're going to handle calls.
Okay.
We're not willing to
Risk
that because now there's liability issues and whatnot. And that's not really, their job is outreach. So they're out contacting people proactively. So they see them. A lot of times, like I said, we have a list of high frequency on people that we're really trying to help get off the street. So as far as the calls for service, there's other people, other cities that are experimenting with that right now.
Because the first point of contact, so then is typically an officer, just
yes.
Because the story you told kind of brought that up, because what happens sometimes they just have that tendency to have that negative perception where police are, harassing this person, right? So then if there was another, contact, and then like you were mentioning, maybe police could be there for assistance, but not necessarily the first responder. That's what I was kind of leaning towards, but that would be a whole shift in the way we do things now.
They're out there proactively making contacts as well. We're doing the same thing. Whoever comes across that first person that wants services, so if we come across the person who wants services, I'm gonna call Lakota to us. And at that point, as long as I know that that Lakata's, you know, they're not gonna be harmful and they're cooperative and they're cool, Lakata's gonna take over and we're gone, and we can do our thing.
Yeah.
So prior to Lakata, if we had somebody that wanted services, our day was done. It was 2 hours of a screening. Once we found a place, we'd be on the phone for 2 hours getting them screened. Then it was out over to QVH to get them medically cleared. And then it was, okay, wait on a phone call for your intake time. Okay, you can bring them here at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's in Pasadena. So now we're off to Pasadena, and then drop them off there for an hour, and then going back here, and that was a whole day, right? So that's what Lakata's done, is now we get that person that says, yeah, I want help. Great. Here you go. And we're off to
Sounds like we need to.
So there are days where now we have 2-3 people in one day, and we are having to still deal with it, but it's 2-3 people off the streets. So
And kind of what you're talking about is part of the reimagining police work and coming up with new outside ideas. And there's a lot of talk about it, but there's no city that I know of that is doing that. Who's going to be those essentially first responders that are going to go out and deal with it? Nobody. So, like, there is no program, there's no federal agency or government program right now that says, no, these are our people that will do that. So for us as a small city, now you're talking about creating a whole nother department. I mean, I'm not smart with money, that's why I became a cop.
The only one I can think of is just because I had read about it, was Eugene, Oregon. They do it, what they do is they receive a call into the dispatch, and then that dispatcher will determine what team needs to go. And then they dispatch officers, or they dispatch their Hope, or their equivalent to the Lakata Hope team. I can't remember.
social worker or something.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of their program, but anyway, that's the only example I know.
I just went through a class on all of it. I haven't heard of that. That's interesting. I'll definitely go check that out.
Yeah, I can't remember the name, but maybe I have your email.
It'll be some crazy acronym.
Yeah.
We love our acronyms, that's for sure.
Cahoots.
Yeah.
Cahoots. So the dispatcher will determine if it's a mental health homeless, and then she'll dispatch a mental health team with no officer. And then if they determine that hey, this is an issue, they get on the line to get an officer to assist. But they're the first lines, and they, at least from what I read, it seems to have improved relations, just because they don't have that.
Yeah, Portland tried that.
Eugene, yeah.
Yeah.
That came up for discussion about 2 years ago.
Yeah, right.
And they had the team come out, and I think it was rejected.
Yeah.
In many cities around here for
Well,
whatever reason.
In this case, it ain't broke, don't try to.
Yeah.
I feel like we're having a lot of success.
I do too.
Yeah.
Bring in
It sounds
another
like,
element.
it sounds like we are.
For me, the cost of loan is astronomical. You're gonna have to teach all your dispatchers how to decipher between the two. The city's gonna take on a lot of liability now, depending on how that whole contract is negotiated. Because when one of those individuals gets hurt, killed, someone's gonna come, and typically, in my experience, there's a lawsuit that follows that.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, so now what kind of liability are we looking at? Certain things needed to change, and they have changed, and it's working pretty well right now. We have a lot of support from our city and from the community, so I never want to shoot down an idea. Everything's always on the table. We have to, as a law enforcement, we have to be able to pivot and change to the demands of our community and how they want to be policed. So, you know, that's something that gets some traction and going. I know our city and city council would look at something like that, you know. So that is not up to me. I do not get paid enough for that, nor do I have the intelligence. That's right. I'll say yes to whatever.
Can I have all the money in your wallet?
Yes, yes you can. You're gonna be sadly disappointed, I promise.
As long as it's under $900.
Right, yeah.
It was worth a try.
Okay.
Yeah, that was great.
Anything, Chair Torres, anything else on this topic?
No, we're
Discussion
good,
item?
yeah, that was helpful, thank you so much. Lieutenant.
Our pleasure.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay, have a
Everybody
good
have a
night.
good night.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Covina. Thank you.
And then, before I forget, going back to the website, we have all sorts of homelessness resources on there, but none of them seem to have been updated with Nakata info. Maybe it's because it's new, or maybe it's just because it's temporary, but I think it would be helpful. Like, I found that toolkit we have, it's like a PDF. It's like a homelessness toolkit, and it gives you like all the information, resources.
That was what Masa was.
Yeah, and that still has old information. So I would think it'd be helpful to kind of go through that and see if we could update it to reflect the new system we have with Lakata, because it seems like it's working. And if we advertise more and we kind of outreach more, it might even be better, so.
I think if I may, we can make that request to Lakata. I think that would be appropriate because they would have those connections.
Yes.
Oh, for the website?
The toolkit,
Oh,
whatever
okay.
their version of that is, they can put that together and then we can update it accordingly.
Yeah,
And then
just
some of-
because the website is, I would assume where most people go first to look, to see if there's any info.
And then the other suggestions that you had made, I know that Deb wrote them down and we'll coordinate efforts on that. Thank you.
I know.
Cool. That's all I got, so any more questions, comments? All right.
Thank you for bringing them.
Of course.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for requesting it, Commissioner Munoz.
Yeah.
Good. Good learning experience.
And think about that too, if there are topics that come up that you feel intersect with some of the other departments, let us know so we can make arrangements and have them come in. Sometimes it's best to hear from the subject matter expert, and in this case, the whole team was a subject matter expert. And I think that the more that we're informed, the more that our commissions and our community is informed, the more we can carry that message throughout the community. So please don't hesitate to make those recommendations. We might have to move the scheduling around a little bit to make those accommodations, but please make them, and we'll do what we can.
Perfect, thank you.
Welcome.
And then I was gonna ask for the funding part. I know that are we at the point where we're looking at the next year's budget, right?
There is currently a budget survey that is available. If you visit the city's website, it's one of the banners, I want to say it's like the third or the fourth banner that scrolls through. If you click on it, it's gonna lead you to a survey, and that survey is what we're gonna use to help develop next fiscal year's budget. So if you have questions or considerations, or if there's certain areas that you feel should be emphasized when developing that budget before we present it to council, please take that survey, because that helps us to put it together and then present it to the city council. And then if I may speak on your behalf, you can jump right in, correct me if I'm wrong. I know that is one of, that's something that's important to Councilmember Contos, as well as the rest of our council members, is just getting more feedback from the community, more involvement from our residents.
And as far as the commission as a body, like we're an advisory body, do we have any sort of power to help along that process, like make some sort of recommendation? Because based on the officer's report, it seems like the Lakata is really effective. It's something that we probably need to keep. So is there anything we could do as a commission to kind of, I guess, echo that sentiment and make a recommendation to the city council for continued funding of Lakata?
Are you looking for something that has more, and I think I know the answer to this, you're looking for something that has more substance than just minutes, than just the group, the consensus being like, yes, we support this, yes, we like this. The commission can certainly make a recommendation to council. If you're looking for something that's more formal, we can do that. And whether it be by a staff report and putting that on the consent calendar, that's something that we can do, but it would take, the action would be needed from this group that want to have that happen. So give that some thought. We can put this down as a discussion point for our next agenda, and we put something together if that's what the consensus is.
If I'm gonna interject, on the 31st, Dave Carmi is having a budget 23-24 budget meeting open to the public here.
In the chamber.
Yeah, chambers, so. That's at the end of the month.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly what he's
Yeah,
looking
I
for.
think you're right. That would be the time to go.
Councilman Contos.
Mr. Chairman, what's possible is, just by way of background, there's money from that's been taken out of our taxes through Measure H, which has by now gathered at least roughly $15 million. I don't know the exact number from West Covina taxpayers. So to the extent that this commission may wish to suggest or recommend to the council that we look into ways to tap into the money that the county has taken from us for addressing homelessness issues and finding ways to have that money used right here in West Covina, then that's something that could be within your purview as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
So yeah, if everyone's okay with that, I think it would be kind of like a triple threat. We could go to the budget meeting, whoever's available. I probably won't go because I have kids and I probably won't be able to make it.
But take the survey.
That was the second bullet, take the survey. And then the third would be as a commission to have something that we could recommend and then put on the consent calendar to kind of bring it to the council's attention.
And then we still want the presentation from the cottages to give the opportunity to ask questions and find out what they do. Okay.
They could both be on the same agenda,
Yes, sir.
right?
Correct.
Well, hopefully they're available for the next one.
We'll coordinate. Paulina indicated she would reach out to them, so we'll coordinate and make sure that happens. Whether it's hopefully the next one, if not the following, we'll coordinate this efforts.
Perfect. All right, that's all we have for item number 2. On to item number 3 was my request and Commissioner Muno's request for future facility usage options for Ridge Riders Equestrian Center. I don't know if you had anything to say, Madam.
We've actually been contacted by a couple groups now looking for long-term solutions for to board and house their animals. That's one option. And obviously, this hasn't risen to the council level yet. It just worked out as far as timing is concerned to start having these discussions because he had requested it on the agenda. In addition to that, the last couple meetings, you discussed the possibility of working towards having events at the equestrian center. If my recollection is correct, what helped to inspire this was the spring egg hunts that had been held. Noticed how popular the pony sweeps were with the pony rides, and trying to provide opportunities for the youth of the community to take advantage of that and to be able to have more access to pony rides. So am I correct in what? Okay.
Yeah, we kind of discussed that kind of as a starting point, but obviously it would have to be maybe something more comprehensive, something more with more substance, but that would kind of be the backbone just because it's an equestrian center. But we could turn it into any sort of event, a harvest festival, something during maybe September, October, like a pumpkin festival. There's different names out there that people use, but something that actually lets the community know that we have that facility and to actually utilize it and have the community go there. We would have to utilize, maybe we might have to utilize parking across the street at Cortez, just because I know the parking's limited there.
It is limited, that's
Maybe have, but I don't want that to be a reason not to use it. And then we have shuttle services that we can maybe do from Cortez Senior Center. We could maybe bring guests from there, similar to what we've done for the Spring Festival in the past. But something that has like equestrian uses, maybe a small pumpkin patch, or we could purchase maybe 100 pumpkins and spread them out, and then people purchase them for $5. Activities for the kids, maybe like a pie eating contest.
So we're looking at an event.
Some
Okay.
sort of event. And if that's not possible, like you said, we could just do a singular type of use, like pony rides, where that's all we have, which is fine as well. But that's kind of the order that I think we should approach it. If an event's not possible, then maybe just an activity.
And I'm thinking the other option, when I first heard about this and I was reflecting on when the topic was brought up, the other option too is to look at classes. You know, there may be individuals who are out there who can teach.
Right,
And
yeah.
I'm not a horseback rider, you know, it's not
I
something
remember
that,
we talked about that.
Yeah.
You know what, in the 60s, that used to be a really busy place. Across the street, our church was across the street, and there was always something going on. And in the 70s, I think one of my daughters actually took some kind of horseback riding classes or something. I mean, it was really an ongoing place with a lot of things happening.
Yeah.
I wish I could remember more, but I know that it was across the street from us, and we were there a lot, but
Yeah.
it's a great area to have
It's an
things
amazing
like
area,
that.
and I think
Yeah.
it's underutilized. And
Mhm.
I actually grew up as I would say an equestrian, but in Spanish we would call it, vaquero or caballero. But I have a background from the age of 5. I was riding horses. So what I've seen most of the time, and this is something my dad was involved a long time ago. He was an advocate for the equestrian community, at least the Mexican equestrian community, because as the San Gabriel Valley, Olive Valley County developed, those areas started getting developed, pushed out, and sometimes even discriminated against. So in the area that I grew up, it was primarily Caucasian homeowners and horse owners. And as soon as they aged out, we had a lot of Hispanic horse owners come in. And at that time, what a lot of people did to try to push them out was to try to rezone the area to take out the horse uses, because they said, oh, we don't want those type of equestrians here. So my dad and others were a lot involved in advocacy to try to save that community that we were in, and they did. And now actually, they have an equestrian overlay on it. And we have our own park and our own equestrian trail. So I think what happens a lot of the times, there's a misunderstanding, and there might be poor attendance, and I think Maverick Ridge Riders is a good example.
Yeah.
I think the same thing happened there. We had a equestrian community there that aged out, and now the new people are coming in, and I've already met a few horse owners there, but it's just not as vibrant because there's just not as many horse owners. And we've been losing space over the last 50 years, because it's easy, low-hanging fruit. Get rid of the equestrian center, build apartments, build homes.
And it
or
would be unique,
repurpose it.
because there's not any cities around here that have something like that.
Yeah, it's very
Except if you
unique.
go out to Pomona, out off of the
Yeah.
71.
The City of Industry has some equestrian center.
Pardon me?
City of Industry has a equestrian.
Yeah, well, that one, yeah, but I mean,
They have the
most of our
rodeo.
little ones don't, yeah.
And then
Yeah,
the
the
sheriff's
rodeo.
board,
Yeah,
the
'cause
sheriff's.
that's good.
And all along the 605 freeway, I don't know what city that is, but Industry, I
Horse,
think.
yeah,
They have
lots of
lots of horse land.
Bassett.
Yeah, well, the
Is that Bassett right there?
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of it has to do with just people not being educated and or misunderstanding, because the area in general, the cultural history has equestrians, going all the way back to when William Workman.
No, I don't think so.
Where-
San Dimas.
Where Badillo meets Lyman,
Oh, yeah.
there's a little curve in there, and down below,
They
there's
have-
horse riding.
Yeah.
And I actually reached out to the Pomona, I think they're called the Dressage Society, the
Okay.
one that
Dressage, yes,
the
Dressage?
one that leases it out.
okay.
And I believe the lady's name was Faith. And I talked to her, and she said that they would be interested in partnering as well. Like if we had an event, they could actually bring their show horses and do a little exhibition for the community, and they're all ready to go. And so I just had to tell them, I don't have anything planned yet, or we haven't discussed it. I just wanted to reach out. And then, I know that we've had the Flocorico group perform for us in the past. They were at the mall, right? At the
Yeah.
Christmas, I think they're, I
They
forget
performed
the
for us for
international.
the Halloween event, yeah.
Yeah.
They performed for us at Merrill Gardens.
Yeah,
Cool.
so they could come to the equestrian center and do a performance there. So we could have a good balance of different types of equestrian groups and cultures. So I just see it as something that's really underutilized, and I think if we put a little into it, people will start enjoying it more, especially if we have children-oriented activities like the pony rides.
You know, and what I appreciate about this conversation too is that we're looking at ways that we can highlight an underutilized portion of our parks and really bring interest back. I think it's a special piece of property and
It's history.
exactly.
You're right.
History of West
Exactly.
Covina.
And now it's time to start having those conversations.
You know, Griffith Park just expelled their equestrian.
Oh, they might be bringing it back.
They might be bringing
Yeah,
it
they're
back.
storing it. Yeah.
So,
They think
we
they
might
might
get them
be-
here.
Mhm.
Yeah, I wasn't
it's-
happy about that.
No.
That's another story.
They're rethinking it.
Well, the take I have on that is a lot of people are just misinformed with the equestrian community. They don't understand certain things. Like I remember somebody complained that the horse
Yeah,
was out in the rain. That
Well,
was like
I think
abuse,
that
but horses like the rain.
And the thing is, the Santa Anita Park with the horses is what started it, with the horses dying at Santa Anita Park.
Right.
I think that's what started the bad press for horses.
Yeah, and that's kind of
Sad.
the thing that I
They're not
kind
gonna
of
get away
think
with it
about.
though, I don't think.
Is it's the use, right? Sometimes the operator might be bad, who knows, but the use should stay with the land, hopefully. So yeah, I had wrote a few notes on it. I already mentioned the Kiwanis could be another partner. I can see if I can reach out to Brad Manning, see if he's interested to help or at least, start the conversation. Oh yeah, Cal Poly, we could use that as a
Yeah.
model. They have I believe, a pumpkin festival. Theirs is a lot
That's-
larger,
yeah.
They do.
but we could be like the mini version of
You can
that.
take their leftovers.
Is
There's
they-
always a lot left over.
They
They have
feed it
like
to their
a-
animals though.
Yeah.
They have a little tractor pool
Yep,
for the
yeah,
kids,
yeah.
petting zoo.
We have that at right here in the mall. Well, it's not a tractor, but we have a
Oh, the
pumpkin
little,
patch.
yeah, so there's a lot of potential there, so that was kind of why I brought it up,
Just sure,
so.
Hearst Ranch has a lot of interesting
Machines.
machines that maybe they could.
Tractor.
Yeah,
the
there's
track
Ranch could
wagon
maybe
stuff,
be a
you know.
partner as well, that's a
That'd be
really good
great.
idea.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So I don't know, I know that it's always hard because there's all these events going on. We're doing the Spring Festival next, right? So.
No, the anniversary, February.
All together. But let's finish, just because we do have an agenda, let's finish with this agenda
Yeah.
item. We can talk a little bit more about updates at the end of the agenda, but let's keep with
Yeah.
the track. of the
Yeah, so
agenda.
for this item, I would say that if everyone agrees, we could come back in a future meeting. It doesn't necessarily have to be the next meeting, but something that's more concrete, comprehensive as far as, from staff's
Yeah.
perspective as what we could do there, and what we could arrange.
Sure.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Direction received, thank you.
thank you. All right, on to item number 4. This was Commissioner Munoz's request to discuss the California Utility Commission grant, equity grant, and funding opportunities.
Thank you. Back in September of 2022, the California Utilities Commission, in conjunction with the state of California, had released a funding grant for local governments to expand and sort of narrow the internet equity divide in underserved communities. It's a grant opportunity. A lot has changed from September to now. The amount of money that was initially available in the potential funding round was about $50 million. not for any one particular entity, but whoever was eligible. Since that time, though, the funding periods have passed, and the only, to my knowledge, as of maybe even yesterday, to my knowledge, the only entities that actually formed a collaborative to address the internet broadband divide in underserved communities, or communities that by virtue of their geography have a lot of trouble with accessing internet. The only collaboratives right now so far are Mount San Antonio College and the city of Pomona. As of yesterday, I think they were awarded about $300,000 as pre-planning money in order to be used to hire an individual or pay for the staff time that it takes to collect data to assess a community's need. So the bottom line for wanting to discuss the funding opportunity really is to address the issues here in the city of West Covina, where during the pandemic, especially when there were school closures and families were forced to teach at home and were forced to use their own internet and or had very limited access to the internet, which actually stifled their ability to keep up with virtual learning. Recognizing the problem, I know that the city of the school district here in West Covina went ahead and handed out free hotspots to a lot of their students in order to circumvent the problem with the internet. So when the way the grant is written, it makes it sound as if it's for underserved communities or communities that are rural, but the reality is that even in a city like West Covina, there are spots in our city where individuals and or neighborhoods don't have adequate access to the internet. So back in September, this was a funding opportunity. It has cycles, but it does require a little bit more research. So I think at this point, a lot has happened since September to as of yesterday. So I think I'd like to, if it's okay, keep it on the agenda, and we could talk about it again in March, because it's kind of ongoing. It's funding that's available to cities and collaboratives and nonprofits, and it's out there.
Yeah, and we can continue that conversation.
Okay.
If that's.
Yeah, it is. I did not even have that on my radar until you brought it up last year.
September 2022.
But yeah, and I do have experience with the South Bay Council of Governments, and I'm familiar with that just because of my work. But the South Bay Council of Governments actually developed a fiber optic or broadband master plan for the entire region. And the reasoning was that by having a master plan to optimize their broadband, it would attract businesses, right? Improve the lives of the community, spur development, attract like tech companies, and it would just have this butterfly effect on everything. And I thought that that was a really good, I guess, start. I think we could look at that as a city, where maybe we could look at this grant to do some sort of master plan with respects to broadband. And a lot of tech companies would appreciate it, and they would actually utilize it, because it's the same, say for example, a general plan, or let's say what do they call those EIRs, like planning? Yeah. And so then when they come in, they already have a blueprint of saying, oh, okay, we have a fiber optic broadband master plan in the city of West Covina, and I could go ahead and do all these things that are already approved in advance. So they could, bypass a lot of the permitting processes, and also it would help with like our telecommunications issues, and especially the cell towers. Just being involved for so long, I recall that being an issue with residents regularly. Whenever we have a cell tower, right, on the agenda, you have residents showing up in droves saying they don't want it there, it's looking ugly. And having some sort of master plan would actually help, where we could work with Verizon, right, all these tech companies, and determine like where are these zones that we're gonna allow
Wouldn't the
these
school
towers
district
in.
know?
No, actually, I'm sorry, I was coughing. Back in September, I had made a couple of inquiries with the school district, a couple of other cities, and was more interested in talking with them to see if they were interested in just meeting as a collaborative and maybe just forming a subcommittee and discussing exactly what Commissioner Torres just mentioned. Because the grant funding that is available at the moment, another funding cycle's coming up, is specifically for planning. So if you just kind of envision that the city of West Covina, a resident might say, I was having difficulty with my internet because I live up in the hills. And now a tree fell and now it knocked out the tower and did all this. And the reality might be that there are pockets within the city where they're dead zones in terms of the internet. But it would take a collaborative effort to actually gather real specific data about where the weak spots are in that infrastructure.
Yeah.
Because it's a utility, no different than gas, water, electricity. So looking at it like a utility that everyone is entitled to have, you would have to, if we did it correctly, you would have to form a collaborative. You'd have to gather all of your data, do your assessments, and then at a certain point, which could take months, then you figure out, well, is this funding opportunity for this city? It could be that it's not for our city, but it might be for a neighboring city, or it might be for the hospitals, or it might be for the school district. And as a collaborative partner, generally in the county or the city that might take the lead on it, being a collaborative partner does have some benefits. The downside to that would be that if a collaborative is formed, and depending on who it is, then they would expect the city to become like the fiscal agent. And in which case then if you're fortunate enough to receive a grant, let's say for $300,000 to do planning, then the city would have to be in a position to upfront the money and then hope to get properly reimbursed later, and then make sure that the data that's collected is actually usable for the next step, as opposed to just collecting it and then putting it aside and letting it collect dust.
Yeah, and it's almost exactly what, at least the example I looked at, the San Gabriel COG did.
Exactly.
When the San Gabriel COG, the South Bay COG hired their consultant, the consultant actually went to all those stakeholders. I'm not sure if they were part of the collaborative, but they met with the school district. They met with the bigger tech companies in that region. They met with the police departments, emergency response. They got everyone's feedback because everyone had some sort of incentive for a better fiber optic network, because it can improve response times, improve education, access, all these different things. And that was actually put into that plan. And everybody's input was kind of there. And so, but as far as I know, that's as far as they got so far. They've done the planning document, And the goal is to attract all those institutions, businesses, create jobs. And I think the funding actually was gonna come from private. So then like the initial cost, like you said, would come from the city, that, you know, 200,000-300,000 to do the study or maybe less. But then the actual development would, construction costs would come from private investment, right? So if they want to come in and they have a master plan that we already have set for them, they can go ahead and put in their fiber optic, build their network for
Tear
whatever
up the
use they're
street.
gonna use, yeah.
Tear up the streets and put in
Yeah.
the fiber.
And they actually had a underground, they had an underground policy too, fiber. I'm thinking of this as I'm going, but one of the things they had was that whenever any construction went in, any kind of construction, they were required to put in conduit for fiber optic cable.
So they've done that in the city of West Covina, because when they built our building, I know that for a fact, that there is a conduit program, and I don't even know how to access it now.
Right.
Because, so I think we have that in place within the
No,
city.
they just finished up our neighborhood, finally.
Yeah, so what that
45
does
years.
is it allows that infrastructure to be put in place, so that way when we're ready, we could tap into it, as opposed to having to rip up all the streets again
Yeah.
after the fact. But yeah, just some insight on that. And so maybe, like Commissioner Munoz recommended, Roxanne, we could have this item be a recurring item.
Yeah.
And then we could report on it every other month.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Mr. Chairman, just a question for Commissioner Munoz. To what extent, or in terms of timeline, are we looking at for us to really logistically put this into place? Is there anything we should be doing between now and March?
Well, in answer to that, it's time sensitive. So this item came up in 2022 with President Biden's infrastructure bill. So it's a portion of that. The grant funding initially was released to rural communities like up north, like Fresno, Salinas, and areas like that. It was made, the grant requirements were expanded to include the planning component in order to encourage a collaborative effort with cities and counties. So that kind of happened around September September, October. So the funding deadline for that first round for planning grants, I believe, ended in 2022. And that is why Mount San Antonio College and the city of Pomona were able to receive about 300,000. I might be wrong on the amount. It's not very much when you think about the staff time, the amount of technical outreach that needs to be done, and the type of data that needs to be compiled and then prepared as a report. So 300,000 really is not a whole lot, given that Pomona is geographically very large, and so is the Mount San Antonio geography. So it's the college and surrounding area. So I happen to know some of the collaborative, some of the individuals who worked on their very small collaborative, and I would be really happy with the chair's permission to invite them to come and speak as the experts, because I am not an expert on the second round of the grant opportunity. I do know that writing a grant is very, very, very time consuming, and you would have to pay an individual to do that, so.
Do we have a grant writer on staff?
But we also have one through a contractor as well. So if that's something that we were going to seek, that may be the direction that we go, especially some things time sensitive.
Because the reason why I was asking is because to the extent that we need to work on making preparations now, then we should really move forward in earnest so we don't miss the next deadline. To the extent that there's interest in creating a collaborative. So I'm happy to work with you on that.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. I hope I answered your questions.
You did.
Okay, awesome.
So did you want to have that as part of the next meeting where we could invite them, or maybe a future meeting?
If the commission is in agreement with that, yes. Because the experts can come in, if they're available, they can come in and better explain the purpose and need. I would just say, you know, everyone is entitled to good running internet, but how you get there is a different story in the community. But it's part of an infrastructure bill. I'm almost positive there's a sunset on that amount of money that's available from the feds. And it might be something that we should consider taking advantage of. If it doesn't work for us, then that's okay. But at least we looked at it on behalf of the community for those individuals that may have issues with accessibility to the internet. So it might be worth an effort.
Everyone okay with having that? Yeah.
Okay, I'll work on that. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions, comments regarding item number 4? All right. On to item number 5. My request to discuss the restoration of airplane at the Palmview Park and a plaque memorial with history of the airplane. So I know you provided the agreements.
So actually Deborah was kind enough to put something together. I know initially you said don't worry about a report, but she, you know, jumped right on it.
We need some history.
I know, I was like, wow, that's really good response. I was impressed, so thank you.
So yeah, she definitely went above and beyond.
I know, I was like, oh, okay.
Like, this is last minute.
I didn't want, yeah, that's why I said I don't want you guys to have to go through that, but thanks, Deb, I appreciate it. Okay, so I think I'm pretty clear on the first part. Seems like it's been restored, right? There's nothing else we need to do to the airplane to kind of bring it up to standard based on the agreement.
Correct.
All right. Okay, because I think at the time when I got that email, it hadn't been restored yet, but ever since then it's been. So we got that out of the way. The second thing would be the plaque. So did you want to speak to that, or did you want to have me kind of talk about it first?
I know that this was something that you had requested, so I would defer to you first
Okay.
before we.
Okay, so many of you are familiar with the airplane, and so it was on loan to us from the Air Force, and the agreement, I think, is annually. So every year we have to renew this agreement and basically agree to maintain it and to take care of it, and it's on loan indefinitely. So it's always going to be, the owner will always be the military, yeah. And so one of my ideas was to kind of make sure that people know that. So when they go there, they understand the history, how we got it donated. I think it was in the 60s.
61.
61. And have one of those informational type, either a sign or a plaque that kind of goes through a quick history and kind of gives everyone a background on where that's plane's been, because a lot of people think it's just this playground structure.
Well, let me tell
They
you
don't
something,
realize that
it was a
it's an actual
plane
plaque.
when it was first
Yeah, it's not an
there.
actual.
And you climbed it up I mean, you were in a plane, you weren't in a cement thing or something. When they did that, I almost passed out. I went, what happened to the plane? You know, because it just kind of surfaced, you know, and it's still under there, but it's just totally different, but it's so unique, you know. It's very unique, but it was a plane.
Right, and that was actually a question I had too. I know we're all probably, not aware of how that went down, but I know that at some point it was plastered over, right? Do we know anything about when that happened? I know you've been here so long, right?
It was for accident. They were afraid kids were gonna get hurt. I mean, you could actually get on at the tail and jump and everything, and it was metal. and it was sharp.
Yeah, I'm wondering
My
if we
two
got
daughters were
approval
all
for
over it, you know, it's like, it was
Is-
scary.
And I was also wondering if we got approval for that, because on the agreement
I have no idea.
that you
The agreement's very
provided,
specific.
Yeah.
it said that we can't modify
That's
it
it.
without
Got it.
permission.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that that plastering
Whenever
job
that
is.
happened, I don't know the history of that part.
Yeah.
But the agreement's been renewed every year, so I'm assuming that they're
That they
okay with it.
approved
It just
Does
happened
does
for
They
anyone
might
come
have
out?
suggested that
insurance
approval, I don't
purposes,
know
I
though.
think is what they said. The
Does anyone
insurance.
come out?
We, with the agreement, when we do the agreement, we basically, you'll see the document, we do that and we have to provide photos. So what you see attached is the actual photos we submitted with the last agreement. And if they see issues with it, then they'll send somebody out to inspect, but they're usually.
So we're actually,
Before they
we're
sign
actually
the agreement, they
corresponding
look at
to
the photos.
I'm pretty sure
Okay,
they
so-
don't need it.
what was that?
So I'm pretty sure they don't need it.
Yeah, they do ask for updated photos yearly.
So then whatever we've been sending them for the past,
It has to
Long
be, if
They've been
it's
okay
the
with
same,
it.
if we were to reuse the same photo,
do you know when
They
they
would-
plastered over
It
it?
would
They would
probably
not
not
sign the
sign
agreement.
couldn't
Yeah,
tell
it
you
would
now.
be- Right.
Well, I'm
I think it was,
I'm
I think they
thinking-
plastered over it in the 70s.
70s? Okay.
Was it the 70s?
So-
The late 70s, that must have been then, okay.
So let's just assume that it's
Yeah.
approved. So what, what I was thinking was putting a plaque there or a sign commemorating that whole
Mhm.
donation
Oh, yeah.
and kind of, and then here's the interesting part. It also says in that agreement that we're required to do it, to have a sign.
Required to do
Better
what?
late than
I
never.
saw that too.
So I was
Now's
trying
the time.
Yeah,
Now's the time.
well,
The wording is-
yeah, right? Who expected me to read the agreement? But I read it, which helped me put me to sleep. But in there's a clause that says that we're required to, and I don't think we ever have, right?
Nope.
If we did, it's no longer there.
Yeah, it's not
Somebody
there.
stole it.
And
Okay.
that's
You know,
happened.
I vaguely
Not necessarily
remember
there.
reading about it, and I think there was something there at one time, because I know the story, and it would have been there. I got married across the street, and so I vaguely remember, like, oh, this is really interesting.
Mhm.
That, and I think,
An information plaque.
yeah. But I
So, yeah,
can't tell you
so
for sure.
Based on that, I don't even think we need to make a request.
No, I think
We
we
have
just,
to.
just do it.
But what I was thinking is if we could do that as a commission, that would be really fun because we can actually have input and
I think
do something that is creative because
Okay.
one of the pet peeves I have with these signs, and they're all over the place, they call them interpretive signs, educational signs. There's a lot of different names they use, but some of them are just really bad. Or, so you go there and just, they have
Reads
like
everything.
pictures and small text, and
Mhm.
then, for the visually impaired, right, they don't even, sometimes they don't have that braille, or we really want to think about it, like, from a holistic point of view, and make sure that whatever we put there, it's accessible, it's done well, it's designed well. We don't want to just put, a few words and then be done with it. I think it's a process that we really want to celebrate the airplane and the military and have that kind of as a commemoration of it, rather than just a sign saying, here, this is what this is. So maybe we could come back with some ideas, and then we might have to hire a consultant to do that, like the sign. Do we have a consultant for those types of things?
Those are easy to obtain, so I wouldn't be worried about that. More concerned with the history and, making sure that we capture the other important information.
Accurate.
Yeah, that's more my concern.
Right.
The signage itself, that comes afterwards, but our focus would be that the information that's on display is accurate
Okay.
and enticing.
That's what I was gonna say. I think they should be flipped, but we need to make sure it's accurate, but oftentimes that comes at a cost because I'll go to these signs and there's so much information, they have small text and a paragraph, but you honestly have about a 10-second window where people are interested in reading that.
True.
I don't know if any of you have ever stood at those signs and read everything on
I
there.
do.
Typically, most
Even
people.
at the zoo.
At the zoo, okay. Well, I think you're the exception. Most times
See,
people.
you do.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I
oh,
don't.
that's cool, and then,
We
or,
pull
you know,
over
they
and
just walk
send
on,
and
or.
read those flags.
So we need to really capture them when they're there. So yeah, I would put those two on the same level. I would wanna make sure it's really attractive and
Interesting.
enticing and interesting without bogging it down with too much information.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
they'll read the first paragraph. If it doesn't catch them, they're gone.
That's right, they're gone.
They're gone.
Exactly.
Yeah. I would even reduce it to maybe.
And then we'll get those naysayers going, how much does this, the city pay for this?
Oh, geez, not those people.
Maybe
Yeah,
digitally.
they'll jump on
I think it's a great idea, though.
I do too.
I think
It
that,
deserves it, there's
yeah,
no
I think
question.
that, make a deal out of it. I mean, maybe even incorporate it during
We'll
next
have a
year's
party.
birthday or something, gives us
We'll
a
have
year to
a-
get ready.
We'll have something
Oh,
there
that's
and have a initiation, you know, have all the community come out and baptize it. Yes.
Yeah, cause right now, what you said it was
There's- I bet
61,
there's
so
some-
what is
61,
that?
that's
61
years.
62
63,
years.
62 years.
No, for the,
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
62 years that
So we'd have like a 63rd year anniversary.
Oh, I had a question.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, as a recommendation, maybe if someone could go to Forest Tenant and Historical Society folks, because maybe they might have some old documents or other things that,
Yeah.
where we could double check the factual history of the plane.
We
And that
have
could save us a lot of work
members
too.
on
I
the board.
could.
Yeah,
check
that's
that
a good
out.
idea.
Yeah, we have
Yeah.
board members from the historical.
Okay,
Yeah, we could check it out and see what's there, what we have on it. Okay.
Very good idea.
Yeah, and going back to less is more, you know, we wanna make sure everything's accurate, but we don't wanna put the whole history on there necessarily.
No.
We wanna make sure that we grab people's attention, let them know what the, you know, primary points of it are, and then if they wanna do more research, you know, we have the internet. So I don't think we need to have 10 paragraphs on this sign.
No.
At most, maybe 2 or 3, and then make it more attractive.
Mhm.
All right,
Good.
so do we have a consensus to do that on the next agenda, next meeting, or do we need more time for that, Roxanne?
I think what we could do, is a follow-up, I think, giving the opportunity to reach out to the Historical Society, finding out, you know, what information.
If they have anything.
Yeah, what information they have. I think that is something that a goal we can achieve by the next meeting.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
I'll-
and
I'll
I think
check
if we
into
can look at some of our agenda items, our business items that way, okay, some of these are gonna take some time, but if we can break it down into, okay, these are some goals that we can meet by the next meeting, then it's a little bit more attainable and it keeps the conversation and it keeps the momentum going.
Right.
So I think the
Yeah.
Historical Society, that's the first
Yeah,
step.
and they're gonna be out of town now, totally.
Yeah, he
into
left
this
today,
month.
yeah.
So- And so, as soon as they get back, then I'll,
We'll reach out,
yeah.
okay.
And then on the staff's end, is that something that doesn't take much time, like you said, to look for like a graphic artist to?
And, well, the other thing, we were just having a quick sidebar, we're talking about, reaching out to the actual, the museum that's loaned it to us, because they may have opportunities for educational enhancement, and then in addition to that, looking to see, there's probably some kind of specialized grant somewhere, so that's what we were saying, okay, that's probably something we can start researching now in order to get a game plan going moving forward. So I would say that those are the two things that we'd be looking at to have for discussion at the next meeting. The possible partnership, if you will, with
Right.
the Historical
Yeah.
Society as well as grant opportunities.
Great.
So I think that's achievable.
Okay,
Okay,
perfect,
sounds good.
good. All right, any other questions, comments? All right. Okay, so with that, we'll move on to continued business. There's any ad hoc committee reports? Seeing none. Any commissioner reports? This is where you can talk about things you've done, events you went to, interactions you've had, any commissioner reports?
It was a sick month.
It was a sick month.
A really sick month in December.
Yeah.
October,
You know,
November, December
yeah.
for this one.
It's like,
I went away. got
Really, it was
sick.
like June to December.
yeah, I know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
There you go.
Well, I do know that I have seen many of our community members and commissioners at different events since our last meeting. I have said hello to you. I just can't remember where we were, but,
Yeah.
but we were here at City Hall for, I think it was Veterans Day?
Oh,
We
that's
just
right.
recently
I was
celebrated
sick.
that.
You know what, it's just, yeah.
The parade.
I was
Yeah,
The
it's-
parade was
yeah,
wonderful.
right. I was sitting on the fire
Our
truck,
holiday
actually.
parade. So there were many, you know, when you're going
Yeah.
about your business, being a volunteer and
Yeah.
just being a community member and wanting to know what's going on in the community with your neighbors, I've seen everybody out there.
Yeah, and snow was a fun event.
Yeah.
Starting next month-ish, getting into spring, my favorite stuff to do, and I highly recommend, you've done it, I've done it, I know you're involved, and Robert, but the Little League openings.
Opening days.
Are just so, it's so good. It's all good, and it's so much fun. We went to all of them, and
Yeah.
they were just.
We got lots of hats.
We got some great baseball in West Covina. I highly recommend that we all go. So
Yeah,
funny.
they're a lot of fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is the season, it's coming.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
almost ready,
It is
Yeah.
the season.
pretty soon.
We have 500 players already.
That is
That's
incredible.
amazing.
Pardon me?
We have 500 players.
Yes.
In your league.
Yeah. Mhm.
And Pony.
So that's just pony, that's not the
Yeah,
league.
that's just
Little
pony.
league,
Yeah.
That's just little.
That is terrific.
Yeah, it was great.
So that's a lot of community there.
Mhm.
That is.
And we're
Do you
getting,
guys
we're
use
waiting
other
for our new
fields?
restroom. What's that?
Do you guys use other fields as well, or?
So, the city has, we just use Purcell, that's the
Oh,
city's
okay.
field, but the rest of the fields that we use belong to the school district.
Oh,
So
okay.
we rent from them.
For the beginning, yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Can I ask a question? Tell us a little bit about the 100th anniversary.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that would be under upcoming events. So let's finish up with the agenda, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is where you get to tell her things.
But I will.
Thank
So we're under
Yeah.
commissioner reports.
I went to the holiday, the Christmas parade as well. It was really good. I thought we saw each other. You were there announcing again? Yeah. I didn't participate this time, but I was in the crowd.
Last year you were
We
with the
did
soccer team.
Soccer team, yeah.
Yeah.
This year I was just in the crowd. I figured out the crowd was a little thin, so figured out a way. So yeah, it was awesome. That was great. Yeah, the snow event was awesome. I liked the difference, and we improved a lot of things from the prior year. The snow was a lot better. We had an actual ramp for kids to go down. I think the prior year we just had snow, right?
We've definitely grown.
Yeah.
And that's the game plan. Like I used to say, your first year is sort of like your advertisement, and then when you just grow from there.
Yeah, it was
And then
awesome.
by year 3, it's like we've always had this.
We've always done it. like
We've
this.
always done it.
Yeah, and then the tree lighting ceremony was really nice. Councilman Cantos was there, I believe, right?
Sure. Yeah.
At the West Covina, Plaza West Covina. That was
One I
really
missed
nice.
in years.
My 2-year-old grandson, we waited in line to go down the snow hill. And the first time he went down, he did really well. The second time he went down, he jumped off and ran up the hill in the snow. And I'm going, how do I get him? And I get him, and he says out loud, he goes, "You're killing me, Nanny!" And the lady at the bottom goes, "Oh, so dramatic." I'm going, oh my God. But we got him quiet with a free ice cream. So, yeah, that's
So yeah, that was a
hard.
great event, so.
It was a fun event, and there was no problem with parking or anything, and I thought there would be, but there was a lot of people, and it was just fun, and it was just like well organized, and not that I was surprised, but I was surprised, I didn't have a problem parking, and of course it started to rain a little bit. So.
And it was interesting, it was funny, because we were watching people kept coming, and it got to the point where one of the vendors asked, well, this is a popular event, but how are you gonna get people to leave? And no sooner was that said that it started to.
There's your answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, good thing you arranged for it to rain.
She put in a good word.
We have
So
to
yeah,
relocate
kudos
Santa.
to your staff.
Yes, and I will
Guys.
share that, I think the entire Public Services Department really came together, the community services side as well as the maintenance side, because it takes everyone. And really, if you think about it, if we take a step back, it's really all of our city departments that we coordinate with. Just about everybody touches an event, and that's what makes, I think, community services so special, with whether it's pony baseball or some of our youth groups, or the classes, or an event, every department touches the community services in the maintenance area, so.
So back to the veterans, if you guys did not attend the Veterans Service Memorial, you missed a great event. And this year it was better than the previous years.
This was the best. This was the best.
And it wasn't, before we had long-winded, you're like, come on. But this time it was just really good. And then the little barbecue after was a nice touch.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna keep that. I think that the community
Yep,
appreciates that.
yes, they did.
Well, especially the veterans, and that's who it's for, and it gives us an opportunity to sit down and to thank them, and then just have conversation, and that's neat that we can do
It only
that.
posed a small problem for me at Mount Gardens, because we were focused on getting residents over to the city. We didn't do anything for the residents that weren't at the city.
Oh.
And, we barbecued later, but it's like, why did we miss that? So we have to double plan, because it's really important, and my residents really enjoy being at the city.
They did.
Being recognized.
Yes, they did.
They really do. And we get most of our veterans over there, but some veterans don't go. So, but it's like, well, how did we miss that?
Well, hopefully.
We
word of
won't miss
mouth-
it again.
Yeah, and hopefully word of mouth next year, more will come, the ones that are a little more reluctant, will
So.
come in good.
It's like, why do we need an event? The city's doing it. Yeah. And they're doing it well, so.
They want both. They want to celebrate twice, and they deserve it.
They do. And Morris is turning 100
This
February 13th.
month, next month.
Yes, a World War II veteran, so we're having a big party for him.
Wow.
Great.
I do recall that invitation. Can we extend that invitation to our commissioners?
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll be mailing official ones out. I'm waiting for the envelopes. So, but yes, please do. Yeah. So if you guys, on February 13th, we're having a birthday party for him. He'll be 100. And you're welcome to come. It's from 3 to 5.
3 to 5, okay. What day is it?
It's the 13th of February. I don't know what day it is. It's the day
It's a
before the
Monday.
14th.
Oh, it's a Monday?
It's a Monday.
Okay. I might be able to, yeah, Monday. Great. All right, so next items to be agendized. Anyone have anything they want to have agendized at a future meeting?
Go for it.
Cameron Park,
Okay.
the tear down of the property,
The Mark Allen House.
yeah, or Mark Allen.
So like an update on it?
You want to talk about what we're going to be using that space for?
Sure.
Okay.
Wasn't that something we had talked about?
Yes, so Chair Torres, back in our last meeting, we had a group discussion with regards to potential uses of the tear down of that land. And as of this week or last week, it's been chain link fence, it's fenced off from the public. And so there were a couple of things that we had talked about, efforts to engage the community.
Right.
And how to best utilize that space. And we did talk about maybe having a community meeting, inviting West Covina Unified School District, and making a wider
Casting a wider net.
reach out into the community to discuss potential uses and actually to probably even hear what their complaints are about the fact that there is no parking there during sporting events. The overflow is into the neighborhoods. I think even 2 neighborhoods down, because there just isn't any parking. I do know that West Covina Unified School District was proposing putting in additional solar panels and parking right across the street from the park. But I think it would be a great thing if the city could talk with the school district about a collaborative use of that property that suits the school district and the students and their families and the neighborhoods that are impacted by all of the really cool stuff that happens at the park, whether it's baseball or the little events that are there and the events that happen at the school. Given that the school now has their Performing Arts Center is going to open up, I think, this year, 2023.
That's right.
And they also recognize there's a need for parking.
There's a lot of traffic.
You know, and I'm glad that you brought up Commissioner Munoz, because now's the time, you know, to really start those conversations with the community, where we're kind of settling in, you know, after the last election cycle. At some point there will be some new appointees, you know, so really this is the time to start making those plans, and when those appointments are made, you know, really coming together collectively to move that forward. So I'm glad that you brought that up. So we can we'll note that and include that in addition to the grant opportunities and the equestrian rink and the airplane at Longview Park.
The plaque, yeah.
The plaque.
As well as the homeless presentation.
That Vilcata has a question mark. It's going to be based on their
availability. Okay.
But they do want the opportunity to make a formal recommendation to City Council for consideration.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else?
Perfect, yeah, that's good. I forgot about that one, so I'm glad you brought it up. So we had talked about different uses and what to do with Cameron and that site, so that's gonna be an ongoing conversation, and then how we're gonna do community outreach, whether we're gonna have meetings and all that, so.
I think that's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
You can supplement with online engagement and surveys, but I'm of the opinion that you have to have at least one meeting, at least one.
So then the next meeting, when it comes back, what can we expect? Like maybe a skeleton structure, what kind of the approach is gonna be, or?
We can, and it would be just a skeleton structure, just because again, we're at a transition right now. You know, the city council members will have the opportunity, Councilmember Condos will have opportunity to make appointments to this body. So I think because we're at that transition, it can only be a skeleton, just an initial conversation.
Right.
So the new commissioners, or returning, depending what happens, can all be on the same page.
Also
Good.
need to do a reorg
Yeah.
meeting.
So that would be in March, the reorg?
It's normally done in March.
Yeah.
Sounds
I
good.
think that our March agenda is full.
Yeah.
That's a 3-hour meeting there.
If we're doing a reorg, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys have anything that you wanted to agendize, any
No.
issues? You wanna-
No.
I think we got quite a bit on our.
I think March is settled.
So I have something that I'm gonna bring up, and I'm
Okay,
pretty sure you know what I'm gonna say.
go for it.
At the dog park,
I had a conversation with our representatives from Trans Tech, who is our engineering firm. We had that exact conversation about the dog park and about having a more robust strategy as to how we're going to not only fund, but also to engage the community in that too. And so that same conversation really comes back down to timing. And I think we connect that with when we start having those conversations for engagement for Cameron Park for with this too, because I would say the same thing. You're gonna have a potential for new commissioners to this body. They should have that opportunity to weigh in on it, because what's gonna happen is if you have new commissioners, we're gonna start that process, and then it's going to, it might change. So yes, we can give a skeleton as well.
Yeah, I knew there would be something. I was like, can't be, it's too good to be true.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the difference between Cameron and the dog park is the dog park's been around for
A long time.
3 to 4 years. So in that sense, I wouldn't put him in the same category, because Cameron's just a new acquisition that we purchased with the Queen of the Valley funds. But yeah, so the dog park, like I had mentioned before, you know, hopefully it doesn't fall by the wayside and kind of get lumped in with Cameron, you know.
Not lumped in Cameron.
But-
What I meant by that is, it needs to be a skeleton again, just because you're having new commissioners come in. It's not lumped in, it's separate, but it's that's the thought, because you're having new commissioners. They should have the opportunity to weigh.
And so then when you say skeletons, does that mean we scrap the plans? we
No,
have already?
no.
Okay,
Just
because we
bring the
already have,
discussion.
we
Yeah,
already have
those are good
construction
plans.
plans.
Yeah, we
but
have discussion, we have plans.
The skeleton would be more related to
Engagement,
engagement? Okay.
yes.
Because we've already done engagement on that like 2 years ago, I think.
I think you should probably do it again.
Okay, we've done, I think Mike went out there
I think,
several times already.
Public engagement, I think.
And then I
Yes.
think I went out there myself and done engagement, and then I provided all that feedback a few meetings back where I talked to all these people.
I think you need to formalize, I think
Yeah,
it needs to be a little bit more formal.
so are we looking at doing like, I guess, another year or?
No, we're not looking at another year.
So hopefully, depending on the commissioners that come in, we're still on
Either way,
track.
we're having a discussion in March.
Okay,
It's a revisit that would,
And
to
it,
bring them up to speed.
yeah,
because last time we met, we were pretty, I think we were all in agreement to move forward, to prioritize it, to have it done.
you were in agreement to prioritize it, to move it forward, to have it done. In addition to that, there was also discussion about having some of the engagements at the park site, because it's important to be present. Those were all things that were brought up.
And that
Again,
was supposed to happen, I think, in October, November, December, the community meeting at the park. But then that just never happened. So that's.
Point taken.
So that's why.
We'll take care of it.
Yeah, I was just trying to avoid it's only because it's been around for 4 years. so,
You have your plans,
Yeah.
and that's the meat of it.
So if we could get a meeting scheduled for outreach, like at least have a tentative date by the next meeting.
I think we can do that.
So just so we could get that meeting scheduled and actually have it.
Yeah,
That
we
would
can do
be,
that.
that would be at least some movement forward.
Absolutely.
And is it still Measure A?
It's still Measure A.
Okay.
Still there.
So that meeting would have to follow the county.
And go ahead.
It depends, because, you know, we've spoken about this, and the original plan or the original project was funded by Prop A, right? And then the maintenance aspect would cover that portion of the previous project. And then we'd use Measure A for the
remainder,
the
balance.
extension or the beyond the scope of that.
From my understanding, the last time was Measure A was gonna fund the entire project. For the-
Oh, okay.
I don't.
Either way, if it's whether Measure A is funding a portion or Measure A is funding an entire project, Measure A does have very specific guidelines for community engagement and benchmarks that we have to meet. And there is an expiration on how when those engagements can
Yeah.
occur. So if they occurred 2 or 3 years ago, that's not gonna meet
Right.
Measure A requirements. So either way, we still have to do community engagement.
And so
And it
then,
has to be formalized, and they're gonna ask for things like sign-in sheets, they're gonna ask for things like metrics, they're gonna ask for things, they're gonna ask for photos of these engagements. So unfortunately, conversations and feedbacks without a sign-in sheet that may have happened previously may not qualify as engagement for Measure A funding.
Yeah.
But point taken, as far, at the very least, having a date set at the very least.
yeah, at the next meeting, just to have a dog park update, and then we could have a date,
Absolutely.
yeah. And the plans haven't changed, right?
There's no change in the plans.
Okay. Unless we get feedback from the community that they hit the plans, then we would have to.
And that
They're gonna
could
love it.
happen.
Yeah, could happen, but probably not.
They're gonna love
They're
it.
gonna love it, because I think they'll love anything. Because it's, yeah, it's
It's
gonna
better
be an
than what it
improvement,
is,
so.
right.
Okay, sorry to bring it up, but I
You
had
do
to.
not have to apologize.
I know it's been on the radar for many years. Okay, so, upcoming events.
Here you are, you're on.
There you go.
A community meeting, no.
You have the
Right,
date?
a
You already
community
have
dog
the date?
park meeting. Community meeting, right. So what is on the horizon for us in the immediate is our centennial. The city celebrates its incorporation on February 17th. While we are focusing on these events in February, we're also branding our entire year, beginning February. We rolled some things out through this month as our centennial year. So all of the events, all the special events will be enhanced, really just to help celebrate that centennial and to build that community pride. In the immediate with February 16th, 2023 will be our centennial dinner. You will receive invitations to that. February 17th, 18th, and 19th, we are holding the Centennial Spring Festival on Glendora Avenue. The thought is to, it's a great spot. When we had our Halloween event there, it was fantastic. When the Kiwanis Club Christmas Parade, Children's Christmas Parade, year after year, that just seems to grow, just based on the feedback that I've heard and the photos that I've seen. So it's just a great location for events, and not only that, it gives us the opportunity to really highlight our businesses that are downtown, and to promote them and give them foot traffic and showcase. Events is one way that we can help to revitalize that area, and it is a priority for us to take a look
The
at
Christmas
those
parade, the
businesses.
businesses were closed.
Just because of time, yes.
Yeah.
This is, it's a little bit different, it's a 3-day event, the times, so it starts on Friday, February 17th, takes place from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., and that's really the community's celebration of the birthday. Saturday, February 18th, it is from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m., and then Sunday is a shorter day, 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. In addition to the businesses being there, there will be entertainment. Community groups will have the opportunity to be entertained, and then in the evening we do have, we'll have other entertainment lined up, bands lined up. In addition to that, we've reached out to the community service groups. I'm looking at you, Sherry. We've held one meeting so far just to talk about involvement, and so that they get an understanding, just really keeping it transparent, so if there's any questions that
You have
people
a month to
have.
plan this.
Is there,
That's it.
that's not entirely true. We've been planning it for a while.
Good.
I like that it's
Where's
got
the
Glendora.
dinner?
That's
I don't know,
Where's the dinner?
good.
Sportsplex.
The sports,
The
I didn't hear it, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if I said it.
Okay, 'cause
You
I.
don't
Okay.
fault yourself.
Okay.
Under a tent?
Under a tent? Oh, so there is an indoor soccer pavilion at the Sportsplex.
It's great.
So it sounds off, but it's not.
No.
It's not. It really is not.
It's
Yeah.
comfortable.
It's very nice, yeah,
Okay.
it
I don't have
is.
any kids playing sports anymore, so I don't know about these things.
Yes,
Okay, at the sports.
That's where the dinner's gonna be?
that's
Yeah.
what dinner is.
Oh, okay.
That's a nice place, yeah.
The ticket price for the event is $50 a person. Proceeds go back to the Community Services Foundation, funds various things throughout the community. So yeah, it's going to be a good celebration. Let me jump back. Did I tell you Sunday's time frame? Okay.
Yes, 12 to 8.
12 to 8.
Okay, for the celebration.
Yeah,
I
vendors,
think.
entertainment, carnival. I mean, we're excited.
Are you gonna have pins made up for the 100th?
We do.
Because I still wear my 90th year on my Levi jacket, and people say, what is that? You know?
But I'm not going to tell you when we're giving them out.
Okay.
Gotta
Where's
wait.
the carnival gonna be?
I'm sorry?
The carnival?
The carnival will be in the parking lot where the Sam's Village is for, if you go to the parade,
Oh, yeah.
where all the vendors are for.
It's right on the side of the freeway.
Yeah.
Yeah, where they have all the
Yeah.
booths for the Santa event, the Christmas parade, yeah.
It's a nice, it's just, you feel good in there.
Yeah.
And so the Christmas parade was just,
Now, you're gonna have, the concrete place, you know, between the parking structure and the movie theater.
Oh, yeah.
Are you gonna have
The
booths
lights.
for like a community, like a women's club or
So we actually-
churches
yeah.
or whatever?
Those opportunities are available. We actually invited all of our community service groups to attend a meeting that was held last week.
Okay, because I
to
bet
go
you
over
a couple
involvement.
churches might be
Absolutely,
interested.
yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's what's on the horizon. That's kind of the focus as far as upcoming
Manual
events are
theater.
concerned.
what
Yes?
about, Uber, I wanted to tell me about the Republican Club, yeah.
Uber, our Uber workshop at Merrill Garden.
Because they did have.
That is coming. We have a partnership with Merrill Gardens to
Kind
roll
of.
out, it's a partnership. We're holding a workshop at Merrill Gardens to talk about the Uber program. That's it.
So it looks like the city has put together a really nice deal for seniors and Uber to get them where they need to go for a very affordable price. And we're gonna find out more about it next week, but we're already excited about it.
Right.
And they'll be able to use the app, and so it's exciting. Because we're always like, how do we get our resident there, or how do we get somebody there, or, so this might be a complimentary.
Yeah, this is a program that was set up to supplement Dial-A-Ride. You know, Dial-A-Ride is a great program, curb to curb, kind of on demand, but you gotta, book a week out. And we only have 4 vehicles in service to cover the city. And we just expanded, the council just approved to expand service area and service hours for Dial-A-Ride. So, which is great. But, there's circumstances where you don't want to wait and that sort of thing, and you want to be somewhere beyond service hours. And so, cities gotten into an agreement with Uber to set up a pilot program. Folks who are 65 years and older can participate in it. It's a $3 each way commitment for the rider. The city will subsidize up to $20 beyond that. And so, yeah, we're looking
And
forward to that.
Here's what's beautiful about it. I mean, it's an economical way to get there. I think it's better than a taxi.
Yeah.
We also have access, and we have the city buses too. So, I mean, that gives our senior citizens some mobility that they haven't had in the past, and that's really exciting. And it's exciting for me and my residents, but for anybody over 65, you're gonna be able to get where you need to go. And there's an aspect of it that if you have to go to Kaiser, which is Malden Park, they're gonna help you get there as well. It's not just in the city. So I'm really excited about it. And I shared it with my boss yesterday, and she just thought it was phenomenal. And she'll be interested to see how it works, and if working with cities and our other communities, we can get this going, so.
Kelly,
Because
how
they
many
do
miles outside of the city? I'm sorry.
What's that?
How many?
3. 3, yes.
Okay.
But the Dial-A-Ride is 3 with no restrictions and up to 5 miles for medical. And this is, I think, 3 for medical.
Not bad.
Which includes, Kaiser and
Yeah.
and
Kaiser
the
Malden
Covina
Park,
hospitals.
From your house to here. with the water.
That's right.
So our next meeting, I'll be able to share with you more of the details, so.
Yeah.
So if you're not doing anything on, is it next Wednesday?
Mhm.
All right, yeah, I think it's Wednesday. Come over and we can learn all together. So this is a good, it's a really an exciting program.
Or if you use Uber already or know anybody who does use that, you can get a hold of me and we can set them up on that program. It's pretty straightforward. It's just, you know, you get an email or a text, a cell number, and we just work through the Uber program. I do the central one to send the person a text, they accept it, and the vouchers apply to their Uber account. And so when you book a trip that meets the criteria, that's either, you know, within the city of West Covina city limits or 3 miles beyond, then you'll see the deduction, or you'll see the reduction in rates for the various ride choices.
So they'll see the whole amount and then vouchers applied?
Yeah, you'll see.
So my
for
residents won't
example,
have a
it's 20
coordinary.
For example, it's, you know,
right.
rides $20 and then you see a line through that and $3.
Okay, yeah, I can just hear him, Sherry said it was $3.
Do we,
I found that
so that's, I'm glad you brought that up because
Yeah.
that was in the Discover.
It was?
Right. So
It
sorry to bring another item, so I'll go back to the items, but could we have that on the future? Because I know we talked about the Discover a lot last year. And I know that we had some kind of discussion about what to put in and I think it got, 2 issues already got sent out, but we didn't really
Just one
discuss
issue?
it. 2.
You've done two?
Yeah, 2.
Oh, yes, you did.
So maybe it could
Doing the
just be
senior
like a,
spotlight.
Yeah, she never
maybe it
got
could be like
profile.
a
That's right.
informational, I know we have a lot on the next agenda, but just throw it in there as just
Sure.
informational and we can kind of brush up on what we talked about with the senior spotlight.
I recall, yes.
Other comments.
We'll revisit it.
Yeah, we didn't, that's right.
So, yeah, I won't waste too much time, but yeah, some of the stuff I was kind of thinking we could talk about was like, for example, the senior Uber. I thought, at least on there, it was, you know, a little difficult to find. I think we could have done a better job promoting it, like, maybe, and then I think there was a number, right? And I don't know if it went directly to you, but to call for more information. And then it said, also on there, it said, if you wanna learn more, go to the city's website, and it had the, but there's nothing on the city website,
We will fix that.
to my knowledge. So stuff like that, we could talk about in detail, but just in general, talk about the Discover and what our thoughts are. Maybe you guys, if you have time, in the next 2 months, just read through it, see if you have any comments, and then we could, but I would say, you know, far beyond, it was good. 99% of it was awesome. I thought it was a really good job.
Yes.
Just little things I was catching, like, as I was reading.
And that's good, you know, it's been on hiatus for quite some time, and so the department appreciates feedback.
Sorry to add another item to there, but when I thought of that, I go, oh yeah, that's right. That was something I noticed. And I shared it on West Covina Buzz too.
Okay.
So I got some people liking it, so hopefully it got out to a lot of the seniors.
All right.
Right, nothing else, no upcoming events?
Just while we were sitting here talking about the homeless count, I got onto the LASA site and see that West Covina's night is January 24th. So if you're interested in that at all, or participated in that previously, deployed from Cameron, you can pencil that in. I'll confirm that and send out a confirmation email, but it's on the LASA site. When you go and you say you want to volunteer, you put in the city zip code and Cameron comes up, and it looks like there's a few people already who have volunteered, so that's the night of the 24th.
Okay. And something else popped into my head real quick, back to the Uber. The explanation you gave right now with respect to how the program works, is there anything we could have in writing, like a fact sheet or a little quick cheat sheet that when you guys do revise the website, could be on the website to kind of
Yeah.
explain the process.
Yep.
So I thought that was a really good explanation.
Thank you.
So if we could have it so that people can actually see what the process is like.
Yeah, we're working on a presentation right now for
Oh,
next
perfect.
Wednesday, and we'll be able to get that up as well.
Perfect.
We're getting our feet wet with next Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it might even be.
We think there's gonna be
Oh, he's got
200
something.
people there.
Oh, okay.
I believe you.
They're all gonna Uber in?
Councilman.
They'll all get
Councilman.
another,
Yes.
They're Ubering from their room.
we're making muffins for 200 people.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to let everybody know real quick, I'm going to be having my first district town hall, but it's open to anyone throughout the city. It's going to be on the 21st at Gulfster Park at the Nature Center there. And so Roxanne has information about that she could get to everybody. But yeah, and so it's really exciting because it's an opportunity for all of us to get together to just talk about other things that you'd like to see done in the city. And I'm going to be holding these on a regular basis, so we're going to keep it going. And with future district meetings, we'll come back with reports regarding specific next action, the status of different requests that people have made. So we'll be really transparent about the extent to which things were done or are still in progress. And so it's going to be something that I'm really excited for all of us to get to do together, so.
What time, Ollie, does it start?
10 o'clock,
10, oh, AM, okay.
10 a.m., right?
Oh, thank heavens.
That was the 21st?
The
That's
21st.
July
The
21st.
21st.
Up at the,
Gulfster Park.
yeah. Mhm.
Excellent.
Yes.
It's gonna be a nice change of scenery up there.
Monday,
That's
isn't it?
beautiful, Gulfster.
That-
All right, with that, I'll adjourn the meeting at 8:35.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.